You didn't forget to lock the door. You locked it, you watched yourself lock it, and then 5 minutes later you're back at the door checking again. That's not forgetfulness, that's not anxiety, that's something deeper. Something most people completely misunderstand about the way overthinkers actually work. And today, we're going to go inside the mind of an overthinker, not to fix it, not to shame it, but to understand what's really happening underneath. Because what looks like a problem from the outside is actually one of the most sophisticated things a human brain can do. Welcome to Easy Mind, where we decode the psychology behind the way people think, feel, and behave. If you've ever replayed a conversation in your head for 3 days after it happened, if you've ever canceled plans because you couldn't stop imagining everything that could go wrong, if your brain feels like a browser with 47 tabs open at all times, this video is for you. Stay with me because by the end, you're going to see overthinking in a completely different way. Most people think overthinking is just thinking too much. But that's like saying a fever is just being too warm, it misses the whole point. Psychologists define overthinking as repetitive, uncontrollable thought loops that are focused almost entirely on problems, worst-case scenarios, and past regrets rather than solutions. And here's the key word, uncontrollable. Overthinkers don't choose to replay that embarrassing moment from 2017. It just plays again and again and again. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that about 73% of adults between the ages of 25 and 35 identify as overthinkers. That's nearly 3 out of 4 people. This is not rare, this is not weakness. This is biology. The human brain has what neuroscientists call a default mode network, a system that activates when you're not focused on a task. It's what runs in the background, and for overthinkers, this network is running on overdrive. It was built for survival. When our ancestors had nothing to do, their brains would replay dangerous situations, plan for future threats, and analyze social dynamics to avoid being rejected from the group. The problem, our ancient brain doesn't know the difference between a predator in the jungle and a text message left on read. Here's what nobody tells you about overthinkers: they're not weak, they're not broken. They're not too sensitive, they're highly intelligent pattern detectors. Studies show that people who overthink tend to score significantly higher on tests of verbal intelligence and creative thinking. Their brains are wired to find connections, spot inconsistencies, and predict outcomes before they happen. Think about that for a second. The same brain that tortures you with what did they really mean when they said that is the same brain that catches the detail everyone else missed. That solves the problem before it becomes a crisis. That writes the email 5 times until it says exactly the right thing. There's a psychological concept called cognitive sensitivity, and overthinkers have it in abundance. They feel the weight of decisions more deeply because they understand the consequences more clearly. Dr. Adam Perkins of King's College London proposed that the same neurological pathways that cause overthinking are also responsible for imagination, planning, and high performance under pressure. Overthinkers aren't cursed, they're operating the same hardware just at a higher intensity. Not all overthinkers are the same. Psychology has identified 3 distinct patterns, and most people are a combination of 2 or more. The first type is the ruminator. These are the people who live in the past. They replay, they reanalyze, they re-experience. Why did I say that? What if I had done it differently? I should have known better. Rumination is strongly linked to depression. Not because it causes sadness directly, but because the more you replay something painful, the more real and present it feels. Your brain doesn't store memories like a video file. Every time you recall something, you're reconstructing it. And every reconstruction embeds the emotion deeper. The second type is the worrier. These overthinkers live in the future. They simulate, they catastrophize. They prepare for disasters that may never come. What if I fail? What if they leave? What if this decision ruins everything? Worry is linked to anxiety, but it's also linked to high levels of conscientiousness, one of the most positive personality traits a person can have. Worriers often become the most prepared people in the room. The third type is the analyzer. These overthinkers live in the present, but they can't let anything be simple. Every decision must be fully understood before they can commit. Choosing a restaurant takes 45 minutes. Responding to a casual question takes a full mental essay. Making a simple phone call requires a rehearsal. Analyzers often have a deep fear of making the wrong choice. not because they're indecisive, but because their brain registers every option as genuinely important. Here's the cruel irony of overthinking: trying to stop it makes it worse. This is called the ironic process theory, first described by psychologist Daniel Wegner. His famous experiment told participants one simple thing: do not think about a white bear. What happened? They thought about white bears constantly. When you tell your brain to stop thinking about something, it has to keep checking, am I thinking about it? No good, wait, now I'm thinking about it again. The suppression becomes the obsession. This is why just don't overthink it is the most useless advice in the world. You can't muscle your way out of an overthinking spiral. The brain doesn't respond to force, it responds to redirection. Research published in the journal Behavior Research and Therapy found that mindful acceptance, simply observing your thoughts without trying to fight them, significantly reduced the intensity and duration of overthinking episodes. In other words, the path out of overthinking isn't resistance, it's release. Before we close, I want to leave you with something important. Some of the most successful people in the world are overthinkers. Not despite their overthinking, because of the same underlying traits. The attention to detail, the ability to anticipate problems, the refusal to accept good enough when something can be better, the deep empathy that comes from imagining how others might feel. These traits, in the right environment with the right tools, become superpowers. The goal isn't to become someone who never overthinks. The goal is to become someone who understands their mind well enough to choose when to engage it and when to let it rest. Because your brain is not your enemy, it's just trying to protect you. It's running old software on new problems, and once you understand that, really understand it, something shifts. You stop fighting your mind and you start working with it. If this video made you think, even a little, about the way your own mind works, then it did its job. Drop a comment below. Are you a ruminator, a worrier, or an analyzer? I read every single one. If you want to go deeper into the psychology of how we think and why we feel the way we do, make sure you subscribe to Easy Mind. We put out new videos every week, and if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for an overthinker is simply say, I see you and there's nothing wrong with you. See you in the next one.